Hello, everyone. My name is Risa Aronson, and I am your Jewish National Fund New England Women for Israel Chair. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And through all the little squares, I see so many familiar faces, so many of you that I am pleased to call close friends. But I also see many new faces, which means that we are growing and evolving even during these very unique times. This is our second Women for Israel Thank You event dedicated to you, our core women leadership. And we look forward to many years of women-led initiatives and annual events. Please take a brief look at our agenda for this evening. I want to thank our Sapphire President, Rhonda Foreman, our Sapphire President Emeritus, Amy Parsons, our High Chair, Maria Ponsillo, our Metro West Women's Alliance Chair, Harriet Merkowitz, and our Women Alliance Chair Emeritus, Judy Elovitz Greenberg. I want to take this opportunity to welcome our newest Sapphire and board member for her investment and commitment to the land and people of Israel. Please welcome Marsha Widmer. Marsha, please wave and show us your beautiful new pin. And I wish I could have handed it to you in person, but I'm going to give you a virtual hug right now. So we're really thrilled to have you. I also want to acknowledge our new Chai Society member for joining us at Jewish National Fund. And this was a result of our Women for Israel virtual mission led by Rhonda, Andrea, and Da. Kudos to you. Jana. Please welcome Anne Sebastian. Anne, please wave and show us your beautiful new necklace, and virtual hugs to you as well.
Program.
We have an even newest member, Chai member, and it's Barry Popkin, who is also a member at our Women for Israel Steering Committee. So a virtual hug to you as well, Barry. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my esteemed pleasure and honor to introduce you to a tireless advocate of Israel. She is our dedicated leader, who also happens to be our Jewish National Fund Israel emissary to New England and the Capital District. She is a former CEO of a prominent Israeli NGO. It's called the Blue and White Future. And prior to this, she served as a senior advisor at the Ministry of Defense during Prime Minister Barak's tenure. She has a unique, incredible voice. I love her dearly. She is a wonderful advocate for Israel. So please welcome Dar Nadler.
Thank you, Risa. Dear ladies and friends, I want to take this opportunity to do what we gathered here to do, and that's to thank you all on behalf of Jewish National Fund for being here today, for being here when we needed you in the past, and for your commitment to the future. Your support of JNF is not taken for granted ever. And to show you just how grateful we are to you, we prepared this.
את מכינה את השבת ומתפללת, אני יכול להסתכל על זה שעות, ואיך את שרה לעצמך ומתביישת, בא לי להיות האיש הזה שמנגן לך. תראי, הפכנו להיות יותר דומים, וגם אם לא תרגשי, תמיד אתן לך את כל החיים. בואי אליי כמו הרוח לגלים, את יפה שאין מילים לדבר. בואי אליי כמו השקט ללילות, בכל התפילות שבלב, וכל השנים שעברנו, כמה בדרך אספנו, תראי הפכנו להיות גדולים, היו מלחמות וניצחנו, כמה רחוק שהגענו, הפכנו להיות שלמים. את מבינה אותי הרבה יותר ממני, ורק איתך אני מכיר גם את עצמי. כשתחזרי כל יום תראי אותי בפתח, אהובתי, אני אומר תודה עלייך, על רגעים פשוטים שאין להם מחיר, וגם כשאת איתי אני חושב עלייך את כל החיים. בואי אליי כמו רוח לגלים, את יפה שאין מילים לדבר. בואי אליי כמו השקט ללילות, בכל התפילות שבלב, וכל השנים שעברנו, כמה בדרך אספנו, תראי הפכנו להיות גדולים, היו מלחמות וניצחנו, כמה רחוק שהגענו, הפכנו להיות שלמים. בכל השנים שעברנו, כמה בדרך אספנו, תראי הפכנו להיות גדולים, היו מלחמות וניצחנו, כמה רחוק שהגענו.
So as you can see, we're not only one of the most successful branches in JNF's WFI campaigns in the country, but we're definitely the prettiest. I want to give here a special and heartfelt thank you to Rhonda Foreman and Teresa Aronson, who without them, there would be no Women for Israel campaign. I'll also take this opportunity to say, Rhonda, so sorry for driving you crazy with so many requests. Again and again, we are thanking you, beautiful and passionate Zionists that you are, for being committed advocates, fierce fighters, and loyal supporters of the State of Israel and Jewish National Fund. Please applaud yourselves, even if you're muted. Now, the next speaker is a beautiful human being. She's joined us last year and became a major donor instantly. Since then, she doesn't stop spreading the word of Jewish National Fund. She is a physician and recently became our WFI Chai Society chair. Please welcome Maria Pansillo.
Thank you, Dar. Hello, my name is Maria Pansillo. I am a member of Jewish National Fund's Boston Board of Directors, chair of the Chai Society, and a major donor. Thank you for attending this evening. I am delighted to be with you. It is a great pleasure to introduce our guest this evening, Lior Lev Sercarz, chef, spice blender, and owner of La Boite, a biscuits and spice shop in New York City. As a gift from JNF, you will receive his most recent book, Mastering Spice, in which he shares 250 recipes and invaluable techniques to transform everyday cooking with spices. Mastering Spice was named one of the best cookbooks of the year by the New York Times Book Review. In 2002, Lior brought his interest and talent of spice blending to New York, where he worked with chef Daniel Boulud as a sous chef and catering chef at his flagship restaurant, Daniel. He left Daniel in 2006 to start La Boîte, launching the company by making and selling a line of French biscuits, as well as experimenting with the use of spices. In 2011, after further work in the realm of spices, Chef Lior opened La Boîte Biscuits and Spices, an art gallery and spice shop in New York City. Since early in his career, Lior has worked closely with chefs from around the world, developing custom spice blends for them and for other customers with all levels of cooking experience. Most recently, Chef Lior was named director of the Galilee Culinary Institute, an exciting initiative in the Upper Galilee sponsored by Jewish National Fund and its partners. To optimize your viewing of this evening's program, you may wish to select the speaker's view option on Zoom. Please kindly hold your questions until the end of the program or type them in real time in the Zoom chat box. Please now join me in giving a warm welcome to Chef Lior Lev Sercarz.
Hi, can you hear me? You can. אתה רוצה לבוא להגיד שלום? Hi, תגיד hi לכולם. That's Lennon. And that's Luca. And they're going to go to bed. They're not staying for the presentation.
What the presentation?
Yalla, לילה טוב,
I'm a
למיטות.
presentation.
Bye. Okay. So thanks for having me. We were supposed to all meet in person in March, and we all know what happened. Luckily, we have the opportunity to do this virtually and do this demo. Today is an exciting day, even more than regular days. We today had our first online summit for GCI, which stands for the Galilee Culinary Institute. We spent 4 amazing hours with close to 40 panelists, professors, doctors, chefs, researchers, all to figure out how we're going to teach the first generation and so on and so forth. Briefly about what is Galilee Culinary Institute for those of you who are perhaps less familiar. I was born and raised in Israel, in the Upper Eastern Galilee, in a little kibbutz. I say semi-jokingly that it's ironic that I cook for a living because I was raised eating pretty bad food. And maybe it's my mission to change it. And in 1997, I had a conversation with my parents and told them that I would like to be a professional cook. And my mom was in tears and turned to my dad and said, Moshe, where did we go wrong? And as a good, proud Jewish mother, she quickly turned around and said, you know what? If you are going to be a failure, you're going to be the best possible failure that I know. And they helped me financially to go and pursue my studies in Lyon, France. And I think that starting that day, which was September 20th, 1997, when I left Israel and basically never came back to live, I was always fascinated with the idea of how we can teach culinary studies in Israel. The food scene today is one of the most incredible around the world. If you've been lately, and if you have not, I encourage you that as soon as they allow to travel, get on a plane and just go and eat first and foremost. Then you can explore the rest. For many years, I met a whole bunch of people from private sectors and non-profit, and they all very politely kicked me from their offices saying that this is really a bad idea, but they would like to come and visit it when I open it, which didn't make sense one bit. And about 3 or so years ago, a good friend in Israel decided to connect me with a young man by the name of Russell Robinson, who you might know as the CEO of JNF. And I went without too much hope to the offices on the Upper East Side. And Within 2.5 minutes or so, we shook hands and decided that we were going to do this project together. Because we both share a great love for food. And two is we share an even bigger love for Israel. And third is the big love for the Galilee, which is where I'm from. And understanding that through the GCI and Beta Share and the Medical Center and all of the amazing initiatives that Jewish National Fund does in the Upper Eastern Galilee, and by the way, in the Western Galilee and in the South, in the Arava and Be'er Sheva, we will bring back life to this beautiful region. It's Tuscany, just there's a lot of Israelis there. That's the only difference, but it looks as great. It's a region that had close to 60,000 people in the 50s and the 60s, and now has barely 20 to 25,000 people. And the people that you would meet there will tell you that they're there because they have nowhere else to go. Otherwise, they would be long gone. And we decided that we're going to add the GCI to all of these other great initiatives to change this narrative and to show that the Galilee is not only a beautiful place, but it's a great place to raise a family, open your business, come and learn about the culinary studies, stay and work, create your own business and company, or even if you were to go back to your home, is at least make Kiryat Shmona and the greater Kiryat Shmona area a place that you're going to stop at and not just drive through. So that's shortly. The concept of the GCI is a culinary institute welcoming students from all over the world, regardless of how old you are, the belief, whatnot. The one thing that brings us all together is food, and understanding that there's lots of ways to express yourself professionally. You don't just need to be a cook or a pastry chef or a baker. You could deal with food science and technology and graduate and have a better chance to succeed in professional life. We've made great progress over the last 3 years. We have a CEO for over a year in Israel. His name is Nathan Hoffman. We launched a website last month, so I invite you to go and visit Galilee Culinary Institute. And if there's somebody who can type in the chat box that will be helpful. Sign up for our newsletter, stay in touch so that we can find you. So when it opens, you can come and take a class, have a dinner at the restaurant. There's 20 rooms that will allow you to stay the night or more, if that's what you choose to do, and really help us get this off the ground. We made amazing progress. We now have a long-term lease with the kibbutz where it's going to be built. We're working on curriculum, as I mentioned earlier, and we're going to spend the next couple of days with an amazing team of professionals to write this curriculum so that we can welcome students in early 2022 or mid 2022 and really offer them the best possible program. So I am a bit far from my phone to see any chat boxes and questions, but if there's something that comes along and somebody probably has access to a microphone, feel free to interrupt me. This is by no means a lecture or anything like that. It's me in my home with this guy in the background, and we're going to make some couple of dishes for you. So if there's any questions that come along the way about GCI, about the dishes, feel free. If somebody can moderate those questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I don't know if if it's Dar or somebody else, but
yes, I will keep track on the question.
Okay, super. I'm counting on you. Great. So we have about 45 minutes, as long as you want. I'm already home, so this could be my dinner. So I'm in no rush, but we thought that we'd cook for you three. I say they're simple, but then people like they're simple for you. So 3 dishes. I'm not going to say simple or not, but things that we eat quite often at home. I am from the Middle East, so it's usually my first go-to when it comes to food is those different flavors. So I believe you have the recipes, or they were communicated. Don't judge me by the exact ingredients because I don't have the recipe in front of me. I'm going to try to stick to the script, and if there's something, then feel free to ask. Thank you also, JNF, for sharing the books with you. So it's a fabulous book. I think it's my 3rd cookbook, and there's lots of great ideas on how to incorporate spices in everyday cooking. The first dish that we're going to do is called arayes, A-R-A-Y-E-S. The name, there's a lot of theories of where the name, most would say that it comes from the word bride in Arabic. It's something that's very celebratory and beautiful. And at the end of the day, it's a pita with meat in it. Not sure exactly what's the connection between the bride and the pita, but there's a whole story about it. It's a pretty common street food, both in Lebanon, Syria, Israel, West Bank, traditionally meat stuffed in a pita that then is grilled. I don't have a grill. I live in Manhattan. We're going to do it in a pan. So I have some ground beef. You could definitely do it with lamb if that's your thing. I have done it in the past with fish. I know you guys are up in fish region, so I invite you to try that too and follow the same reasoning. So about a pound of ground beef, an onion. There's various methods. Some people will use a box grater to kind of grate the onion. So instead of chopping it, you can also use a food processor if that's what you like. So the idea is to cut it as fine as you possibly can. And then add it into the meat. This part of the preparation could easily be done ahead of time. You know, if you're planning on doing it earlier in the day for dinner or even the next day, I wouldn't really do it a few days ahead of time. The onion just starts slightly fermenting and you'd want to avoid that. So just adding either half an onion or an onion, depending on how much or how little you like. And the other two components that would go in it are some cilantro and parsley. You could also use mint, would work really well, or tarragon, or basically any herbs that you have around will work great. If you are doing the food processor method of the onion, you could also throw in the herbs inside. That will save you some chopping time and some prep. And that will give not only great flavor, but also add some moisture to the meat so it doesn't dry up very quickly. So again, chop these herbs as coarse as fine as you'd like it. You know, I like them a bit coarse, so I don't really chop them too much. And it's gonna be inside the pita bread, so there's really no risk or any fear of them really like burning or charring, so you don't really have to worry about that. So you're going to add them into here. A bit of this onion left here. There we go. And then we're going to add some salt to it. And then I'm not sure exactly what you had in the recipe in terms of seasoning, but I'm going to use one of our blends here that we call shabazi. It has green chilies and garlic and some cumin. So I'm going to add that into the mix, but any other spice would work well, whatever inspires you. So you do want to season it quite heavily because this meat is going to go inside the pita and then get cooked. There's really no other real opportunity to season the meat as you're cooking or after you're cooking it. So it's going to be, it seems like really heavily seasoned, but at the end of the day, it works really great. And as I said earlier, you could make this mix ahead of time and keep it in the refrigerator. And then whenever you're ready, just use it. This mix will also make some great kebabs if you're just in a mood for that. So whether you do them on a skewer or whether you just shape them into little patties and grill them or pan fry them or broil them. So that would work as great. So we're gonna mix all of that. And so far, so good, Dar. No special questions. People are just observing.
Just
Good.
observing, yeah. They're shocked.
They're shocked. They've never seen ground meat before in New England. This is a whole new thing, yeah. So yeah, I will be back in Boston, and we will do something in person. I love coming to Boston. I have a lot of friends and client friends, so it's a place that's I really like to come and visit as much as I can and as often as I can. So we have our ground meat all mixed like that. I'm gonna take one glove off.
So we do have some questions now.
There we go. There we go.
So one is the recipe calls for 3 onions and you only used half or 1 onion. Is that correct?
I'm glad somebody's keeping track of the recipe, because I cook, I write the recipes, but then it also depends on the size of the onions, and if they're smaller, you could definitely add 3 onions into it, or you could just use half or 1. So depending on, I wouldn't add like 3 really big onions, that would be a bit much, but you could definitely do a little bit more than what I did. So your pita that's cut in half, you don't want to get carried away when it's tempting, because you could fit quite a bit, but then it's going to be very thick and it's just not going to cook. So you want to fill it all the way to the top, but again, don't overfill it so it's really thick. Another step that could be done ahead of time. So once they're filled, they could be just kept refrigerator like this. So that you can do.
A few more questions.
Please.
Okay, so one was what kind of salt is best to use?
Okay, and what's the other question?
And then could you spell the herb mix for us so they can write it down?
Sure. So let's start with the spice mix. That's Shabazi, S-H-A-B-A-Z-I, like Rabbi Shalom Shabazi. Shabazi. And the Shabazi blend is inspired, for those who are familiar with schug. It's basically a schug powder. So it's all of the components that you will find in a fresh schug. Here, they're just in a powder form. So you see, I'm just gonna squeeze it a little bit. It's all the way to the top. And then in terms of salt, there are many salt. I mean, it's a very individual thing. I primarily use 2 kinds of salt. At home, I use fleur de sel, which is kind of a nice flake, medium-sized flake French salt. And the other ones that I use a lot of is gray salt, so unrefined gray salt, lots of iodine in it, and really great character and flavor. I do have a little bit of fine salt, but it's not something that I use often. So hopefully that, yeah, go ahead.
The spice, okay. Another question, do you have any maybe tips in how to avoid tearing while handling the onion?
Yes, give it to somebody else. So have somebody else do it. There's the opening a window. Some people do it with sunglasses or goggles. Just chop the onion. It's not going to stay there forever. So get over it. It's going to be okay. So I have my pan. In an ideal situation, there would be a nice charcoal grill here. I don't have that, but if you do, the experience is definitely very nice. But you're not going to sacrifice anything just by using a pan. You could still get great flavor. So I'm cutting them into quarters just to make the process of the cooking easier. And then I'm going to very slowly, there's no need to really preheat the pan so that it's burning, because then you're gonna sear the meat on the outside, and the inside is gonna be completely raw. So low and slow, let the oil, heat a little bit, add the meat into the pan, and then start cooking it. We're gonna cook it on both sides with the meat exposed, and then we're gonna finish it a little bit on the sides. And what you can also do if you're having people over, I mean, these days, depends, it's up to you, but even your family member, you could do the step, leave it on the side even an hour before, and then as you're ready to serve it, whether you're doing small ones as little appetizers or snack, or whether it's a meal, and finish them in the oven until they're done. Traditionally, back home in Israel, it's done with lamb, and so they will keep some of the lamb fat or some of the beef fat if it's beef. And as they're doing it, they will brush the pita with more fat to give it even more flavor. So we have that going on, and it's still kind of the end of summer, and tomatoes are still really good. And so to go with this, we're gonna make a very simple tomato salad. So whatever tomatoes you have, I have these little guys here, and just simply cut them in half.
Lior, another question is what kind of oil do you use?
So during the season, which, you know, after harvest, so let's say December and January, we are very spoiled because I get my father's olive oil from Israel. Do not email me about it. We're sold out since April. We bring more and more every year. But I still use really nice Israeli oil that we currently have from the Golan Heights. I like olive oil with great character to it, with a little herbaceous note, some pepperiness, but good body to it. I know it's kind of strange to talk about body because oil is oil, but because they're non-filtered, they have even more body to them and character. And so I'll be using that. And so what I'd like to do with a lot of salads and mainly tomato salads is to do it ahead of time. I think that the more you leave it with the salt and the oil and the acid that we're going to add in a second from the lemon, it's going to release a lot of great flavor into the juice versus doing it and serving it right away, which I find sometimes you just don't get enough character from it. So olive oil and salt and lemon juice.
And then Lior, there's a question of which is strange for me as an Israeli, but what kind of pita are you using? I didn't know there were kinds.
So for this, the one that I'm showing you is actually a whole wheat pita, but any type of pita bread that you can source, we are, I should say, I'm fortunate to get these pitas from a bakery in New Jersey. That's the same family in Israel. It's called Angel Bakery. So a very big bakery chain in Israel. And they also operate in the US. So they bake them here. They have regular ones, whole wheat ones, square ones, mini ones. And
Are they thick and thin ones, maybe?
I'm sorry?
Are there thick and thin ones?
There's some that are a bit thinner and some that are a bit, I would stick, you know, if you are getting one at the store, try and get something that's a bit thicker and not too thin, because there's a chance that the thinner one will just crack if you're stuffing them. And try to, you know, either thaw them if they're frozen or if they're fresh. Try to get them as soft as possible, because if they start drying up, they will just crumble and fall apart, and you definitely don't want that. I would say this, that a few weeks ago and whatnot, I did not have pita, yet I had the great idea of doing a rice, and I had everything ready, but there were no pitas at home. So it's not like I'm living in the middle of the desert and I couldn't go downstairs and buy pita at the store, but instead of doing that, I did the same process using tortillas. So I took flour tortillas, put the meat, folded them in half, cooked them a little bit, cut them in half again, and finished them, and it was fantastic. So they have not heard of that in Israel yet, but this was my, you know, Americanized version on the Arias and all of that. So here we have our tomatoes.
Lior, there's another question. If all this is possible with vegetarian, quote unquote, meat.
Yes, so if you are vegetarian, I'm sorry for you. No, I'm joking. But if you are vegetarian or vegan, which is the next level up of that, you could definitely do some sort of filling with either chopped mushrooms and onions and lentils or beans and stuff like that, and definitely do the same process. I have not done it, but I don't see why why it wouldn't work. So you could definitely do that. So I'm still keeping my pita here, and we have our a little bit of cilantro and a little bit of parsley. And you can chop them. I often like to just tear them apart like this. It still tastes great, and there's no need to chop them, and just mix them up into our little salad like that. And I'm gonna leave it on the side. So that would be one thing that I'm gonna eat with my arayes for dinner tonight. So you see this starts getting a really nice brown color.
Lior, are you grilling the pan or whatever it is that you're using to cook it?
This is just a regular pan. A cast,
Right, but are you sorry, are you oiling it?
Oh yeah, I put some olive oil. Yeah, definitely put some olive oil. It's not like a dry pan. So the other dish that I'm gonna do, which again is fairly simple, is tahini or tahina sauce, which I think is the Israeli mother sauce. There's always tahina. And tahina, the way to know that tahina is good quality is your ability to eat it as is, raw, without mixing it. A lot of people are like, how do you know if it's good or not? I mean, I have my favorite tahina brand. I don't make a commission out of them yet, but I like it. And this tahina you could easily eat as is for breakfast, just with a little bit of honey, and just dip some bread into it, drizzle it over yogurt or cheese. You don't even need to do anything to it. In this case, we're gonna make a tahina sauce. So basically this raw tahina, and all it is just ground sesame. That's all it is.
Lior, another question. If you're grilling it and not frying it like you're doing now, are you still doing like putting it way down like you did now?
So even on the grill, I would start with the meat facing the grill, and then cooking the sides of it. Yeah, the same way that I'm doing here, by the way. And here I turn it on its side. So I'm gonna let it cook a little bit on both sides. And so that's good. So we have our—
There's a question about what brand of tahini.
it's called Har Bracha. It's made by the Shomronim, the Sumerians in Israel. Because it's a one ingredient product, it's so important that the sesame is good. If the sesame isn't good, it's impossible to make good tahina. So that's what really sets apart different brands of tahini, is the quality of the sesame. Also, obviously, the way that they grind them. This is still using stone mill versus hammer mill, or some cylinders, which definitely makes a big difference.
If I can add also, Al-Ar's tahini is amazing.
Yeah, tahina, it's a bit like hummus. Everybody has their own favorite, but El-Ar's is also a very good one. So here I'm gonna turn it around a little bit, make sure that we don't burn it. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil. Okay, so we have our tahina, a little bit of salt, not too much, just a little bit. And then really for me at least, the key to a tahina sauce is cold water, so iced cold water. If you use water that's a bit slightly too hot, and again, it doesn't need to be boiling or something like that, there's a risk that you will break. So if it happens and you're making tahina with water and you start seeing these kind of weird lumps and things, don't panic, don't trash it. All you need to do is go and grab a few ice cubes, and make some ice water if you have water in the fridge, and start slowly adding really cold water, and you're going to save it. It's a bit like a broken vinaigrette or broken dressing that you can fix. So you're just going to add a little bit of cold water, and just with a whisk, I often will even do it just with a spoon. You're going to see as it starts thickening, and everybody has their basically their preference. Some people like their tahina to be thicker. Some people like it to be thinner. Keep in mind that if you're gonna make the tahina ahead of time, like the day before, and set it in your refrigerator, it's gonna thicken even more. So you wanna make it. And if that's the case and you pull it out of your refrigerator and you find it to be too thick, just get a little bit of water and thin it down. In this case, I'm gonna make it kind of loose so I can drizzle it over my arayes. And I also like my tahina sauce to be quite lemony. So I'm gonna add quite a bit of lemon juice to it. In like that. And you can do many other variation. You can chop cilantro or parsley or add garlic. And with the herbs, you can even blend them a little bit in a blender and make a really green tahina sauce, which is delicious. You can puree beets, like roast beets or cooked beets, and mix them with tahina, and you'll get this beautiful purplish tahina sauce. So it's really a great vehicle for everything, and just delicious and really nutty and comforting. So we have our tahina sauce, and we have our arayes that are cooking nice and slow, just like that.
Well, Lior, maybe we didn't get that far yet, but how would you know when it's fully cooked?
The easiest way to know is if you have a little metal skewer, you can insert it into the center of the pita and take it out and just feel it. And if it feels hot, then the meat inside is hot. And then you will know it's cooked. If it comes out and it's cold, then obviously it's totally raw in the center. I would say that if you're doing it in this method, and you're doing about, I don't know how long we've spent so far, but I'm gonna say it's about 5-6 minutes on each side. So both the meat side and then on each side of the pita, it should be fully cooked. We're looking at about 20 minutes overall of this process happening. As I said earlier, if you just want to prepare them ahead, give them a quick sear on all sides on higher heat, leave them on the side. I would throw them in a 400-degree oven for another 10 minutes before you're serving them. So that's how you know it's fully cooked. And the same goes for lamb, or if you're doing the fish route or something. If you're doing the vegetarian way, there's, it's just about getting it hot, because all of the ingredients inside are going to be fully cooked already. So we have our tahina, as I mentioned earlier, and we have our tomato, and the arayes is going to be nearly done and ready to cook, and ready to serve, I should say. There we go. We're going to turn it like that. And we can do, if you want, since we have a little bit of time, I'm going to add into this tahina a little bit of more of the shabazi spice, that green cilantro and garlic, and make it into a more kind of tahina with a little bit of kick and a little bit of greenier sauce. I also put some here, and I didn't use it earlier, some za'atar, so we can add that to our tomato salad. And you see a lot of the juices from the tomato has really come up. And, for me, one of the key things about tomato salad is the temperature. I don't like cold tomatoes. They need to be at room temperature to really get their full effect and flavor. So I'm going to add a little bit of za'atar into my tomato salad. And as we're waiting for, this to finish cooking, I can tell you a little bit more about what we're doing these days, or generally speaking, with, spices here at La Boîte. So I cooked, and thank you for the introduction earlier, for the kind words. I cooked for many years in restaurants, and I was cooking at homes with people, and I realized that there was a serious lack of knowledge, or people were just intimidated by using spices. Not everybody is born into a reality where spices are being used on a daily basis. And it bothered me because I think spices are for everybody. You don't need to be born to a certain ethnicity or culture to enjoy spices. Everybody should use spices. And I basically retired from my restaurant position and started what is now called La Boîte, in the idea of sharing spices with everybody and showing you that breakfast, lunch, dinner, all day, every day, you can enjoy spices, whether it's seasoning your coffee, tea, breakfast dishes, snacks, beverages. There's no special occasion. And I firmly believe that, you could have a very two-dimensional way of eating. The spices really elevated to a place that will be otherwise hard to achieve, without obviously taking from the ingredient. The produce and the protein and everything needs to be the best possible that you can get, and you can do amazing things with very simple produce. But it still needs to be seasoned a little bit. Even though it's great, it needs a little something to elevate it, and sometimes even have you experience flavor that otherwise you wouldn't be able to do. So that's what we do at La Boîte for the last 13 years, is really go around the world, source the best possible ingredients and spices, offer them as is, or mainly create blends like this Shabazi and about 90 other ones that are inspired by different cultures and different cuisine. All of that being said, there is no right or wrong way to use spices. If whatever works for you, works for me. We all eat differently, we smell and taste differently. Everything that we do, whether it's the za'atar, the shabazi, and all of the 88 other ones or more, you could use them in any possible way, from sweet to savory, cooked, grilled, fried, broiled, mixed. Try it at least. If it doesn't work, then don't do it again, but at least give it an opportunity. We don't make a blend for fish or a blend for meat. We make blends. It's whatever gets you going and whatever excites you. That's what you should be using it for. So these guys are ready, I think. So we're gonna turn off the heat. And so, if I was gonna make myself a little plate, which I'll definitely do later again, but right now for you, it'll be one of these little Arias guys, paper, there we go. And this is off, and then a little bit of this tomato salad, just like that. Maybe a little bit of the oil from the salad on top of the Arias. This bottom juice, by the way, not that there's any leftover, but if there is any leftover one day, it makes a pretty good martini if you're in the market for dirty martinis. And then we have some of our tahina sauce that you could put here and right next to it, or you can drizzle some on the tomatoes. And you have, your Arias that you could just dip in your tahina. I wish I could offer you some, but they don't have that service yet of food through camera, but fairly simple. You can make all of these three preparation individually. The tomato salad, I always have a container with some tahina sauce because that's kind of that's my mayonnaise, to put it that way. It's always on the table. And the Arias, they could be reheated the next day or certain next day and whatnot, but very simple. And I don't know if we have any more questions about this, about the Galilee, about life, about anything else that I can answer or share with anybody.
No, but in the meanwhile, you might be happy to know that a whole shopping venture has started here. Shopping your spices through your website.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. With today, as a little selfish plug-in for La Boîte, but it's the last day we offer our Rosh Hashanah gift basket. So if it's for you, or if it's something that you want to send to a friend, family member, a colleague, or work, it's a great way of saying Shana Tova. It has honey and olive oil and silan, which is date molasses. It has an a honey cake mix that you can bake at home. All you need is a few ingredients, and obviously you gotta have a drink. So we put in some of our honey saffron powder and the silan in order for you to make what we call a gold fashion. So all you need is some, whatever spirits gets you going, some bourbon, some whiskey. You can even do it with gin. Mix up some silan and our mishmish powder, and as you're waiting for the cake to be ready, you can have one or two of those gold fashions, and and have definitely a happier Rosh Hashanah on both nights or one night. So this is our last day that we offer it, so it can get to people on time. It's the Rosh Hashanah.
Two more questions. First one is what can you use as an alternative for the tahini for people who are allergic to sesame? And last question, I think, would be what's on your Rosh Hashanah menu? Okay,
so if you cannot eat sesame and you're looking for something else to serve with this, so I'm trying to be politically kosher correct here. My first go-to would be yogurt, but however, I am aware that there's those restrictions. But if you weren't gonna do that, what you could easily do is take a large tomato, like a steak tomato, beef steak, grate it on a box grater, make like this sort of grated tomato, mix in some olive oil, lemon juice, a bunch of herbs, and you have this beautiful quick salsa, for lack of a better word, that you can use right away. You can you could blend beans, white beans, or just chickpeas into a very thin puree using lemon juice and olive oil, and just make that spread to serve with it. So another great way to serve with it. Or if you're in the market for some hot sauce, so harissa or hot sauce, and all of these guys will be great. What is on my Rosh Hashanah menu? So I scored a pretty sweet deal this year. I am not cooking, well, I'm making challah. That's my commitment. And I'm getting the kids and my wife in a car and the challahs. And I'm in charge of the ceremony. That's talking about the kibbutznik who's in charge of the ceremony. And we're going to the beach. And we're going to be there with one of my close friends, Michael Solomonov from Zahav. And so he's in charge of food, which I think would be pretty decent. Mike, for those who don't know, owns close to 16 restaurants in Philadelphia with his business partner, Stephen Cook. The kind of flagship is Zahav, which they don't have any more awards at the Beards Foundation. He's the chef of the year, restaurant of the year. So you name it, and he's at it. Mike, aside from being a really, really close, dear friend of mine, we were honored and happy to bring him on board and be our first culinary council member for the GCI, for the Galilee Culinary Institute. And even more so, Michael will be the first parent or godfather, however you want to call it, of our first group of students. So it will be the Michael Solomonov graduates of 2022 in what is now called, and I got to give Stephen and Linda a big shout out from Phoenix, the Rosenfeld family, who have beyond graciously donated $2 million to the Galilee Culinary Institute, and our culinary degree will be named after the Rosenfeld family, and Mike will be their mentor during the study. So this is all I have to do is get in a car and drive to New Jersey and hope for good weather, and don't burn my challah, and we should be good for Rosh Hashanah. I should say this, things might come later on. My email is very simple. It's my first name. It's Lior, L-I-O-R, @gcibyjnf.com. Feel free to reach out. We run a hotline for cooking tips and recipes and any questions or inquiries, or if you choose to get involved and help us get this amazing project off the ground, you know where to find me, or Dar will know where to find me if you cannot find me. And I hope that we will see you all definitely in October for the virtual JNF conference that we're doing, and we will have a session with Nathan and myself and Russell. But inshallah, you know, in Israel, as soon as possible, in the Galilee, wherever it is, I'd be more than happy to meet you all for some good food and good wine and drinks and share my passion for anything, everything Israel. I want to thank you for having me here tonight. And as I said, reach out with any questions, and hopefully we'll see you in Boston even before Israel.
Well, we want to thank you, Lior, for spending this time with us and showing us these great recipes. You made everything look so easy. I follow you and I get your recipes every day or every week from La Boîte, and it was just really great to see you cook it. And your children are delightful. I'm glad that they were in the frame the whole time, so we got to see what real life is. And I can't wait to open the cookbook and really dive right in. And of course, to visit the GCI would be, you know, can't wait to be there. So thank you again, and have fun putting those boys to bed.
Good luck to me, yeah.
Good luck. We've all been there and done that. Your turn.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. So everyone, I'm sure I can say this for all of us, that was really, really great. So my name's Rhonda Foreman, if you don't know, and I am your Sapphire Society president. I'm also a proud member of the JNF Board of Directors and a longtime major donor to JNF. I do want to echo Risa's sentiments about hosting so many smiley faces, and it really is a collage of beautiful women who are probably drooling now. I would like to take this special time to thank our professional team, and these are the people who work behind the scenes really hard to keep us all going. And we'll start off with our JNF KKL Shlicha Dar Nadler, who really works very hard and heads up the women's campaign. I'd also like to really thank and acknowledge Sarah Hefez for all her hard work as our executive director, Rena Wagman as the senior campaign executive, Dana Gerby-Klein as our Israel Programs Admission Director, Joey Cohn as our campaign executive for JNF Future, and our volunteer and WFI member, Dorit Yerushalmi, for all of her help. While I do have you as captive audience, I do want to note two major events that are coming up. The one that Lior mentioned is our national conference, and because of where we are today, we can do a national conference by Zoom. I will say firsthand, this is a great way to see and to learn firsthand all that we do and all that we have in the pipeline at JNF that keeps Israel thriving. You can do it, hop on, hop off, as far as going to certain breakout sessions during those 4 days from October 18th to 23rd. It's a great way to get involved and to learn what we do without leaving your living room. The second event is, and during the conference, there will be a very special event for Sapphires, and Sarah Idan, Miss Universe from Iraq, will be speaking with us Sapphires there. And the second event before the year's up is our New England breakfast, which has become a tradition here in the Boston area. But this year, because we're Zoom, we're doing it nationally, which will be very, very exciting. I don't know who the speaker is, but it's always someone brilliant. So friends, I hope that you not only learned how to cook new dishes, but also are feeling as inspired as I am to keep up the great work we're doing for the land and the people of Israel. Even from our homes, we are one big family. This does conclude our program. for tonight. I do hope to see you on future events and maybe in person when it's safe to do so. And from JNF and the Boston group, I do want to wish you a very happy new year. So Shana Tova, and that concludes our program. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you had fun.